Hello friends, Juicy J here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of Dota Alchemy, and in this video I'm going to be covering a bit of a replay analysis of GH's Elder Titan 4 role versus No Pango, or as they're now known, the Pango, and of course he is part of Team Liquid. So anyway, without further ado, let's just get into the replay. So in terms of starting items, GH does something pretty cool that I have not seen before on Elder Titan, maybe because I'm not looking at a lot of Elder Titan replays because I'm an offline player, but in any case, he goes for Stout Shield, 3 Tangos, and then 1 Clarity, and saves 260 gold, and is trying to rush Boots. This is pretty cool, and it makes a lot of sense because the way this hero functions is he runs around punching people in the laning phase, and you want Boots to make the Astral Spirit a little bit faster so you can hit a bunch of camps and stack them and get a bunch of damage with the Astral. So it makes a lot of sense, and since he's a hero that runs around bodying people and just hitting them and taking damage, he's actually a perfect candidate to just suicide to a tower to get regen as opposed to having to start with regen, especially because of course he's a support as well, so he doesn't need to be in the lane getting experience. So rushing Boots like this makes a lot of sense, even though he does want to trade a lot, and that's why he's the Stout Shield and some Tangos, and then he'll just commit suicide. So GH does this very interesting thing right at the start of the game where he runs to the mid lane and walks just outside of tower range trying to scout who is going to be laning mid. So he even moves his camera to try and see who it is. And I was sitting here thinking about it for a while, trying to figure out exactly why it is that he does this. And I'm pretty sure that the reason he does this is at the very least he wants to see who's mid so he can decide what side lane to go to. Or maybe it's for his team, like they want particular lanes. They want the Grimstroke against X hero if this is the case. They want the Elder Titan against Y hero if this is the case. And essentially going to the mid lane is revealing some sort of information that Liquid wants in terms of how the other lanes must be set up. And my best theory is that they don't really care if Bristle is against any of these heroes. He'll do fine. But they don't want the Beastmaster to be against the Tidehunter. So if he goes mid and sees the Dazzle, he just needs to head to the bot lane with the Beastmaster and then send the Bristle solo top, who will do fine against any of these other dual lanes, and then they can just tri-lane bot. That's my best theory. I'm not 100% sure. This is kind of like a high-level thing, and I'm sure they have all completely different opinions on what beats what in the lane. But essentially, I thought that was really interesting. We can see that he immediately runs to the bot lane after checking this, and I believe the Grimstroke TP's bot after they see that it's the Tide up here, just knowing that the Bristle can really easily solo this guy. So they're essentially just looking for some sort of information from the lanes, and they don't just let the lane start and have that happen. They go to the mid lane to check out who's there, because the mid lane creep wave is going to meet in an equilibrium before any of the side lanes. So GH has time to get to the bot lane before the creeps actually start dying. So what our boy GH does down here first is relatively simple. He uses the Astral Spirit on as many things as he possibly can, and then Kuroki uses the Ink Swell on him, and they just try to do as much damage as possible while they're going to trade more effectively with the Astral Spirit damage. But you can see that when Astral Spirit is no longer giving him damage, in fact, he even has the cooldown of Astral Spirit up. He's not trying to just spam it out and do damage to his opponents constantly. And the reason for that, it's 2 reasons. Number 1, he only has 3 Tangos, so he can only do it a certain amount of times, and then he's going to run out of regen, and he's not going to be able to continue doing it. So he's just going to wait because he's so close to Boots that the next time he has the Astral up and the next time he does damage, he can do it so much more effectively because the Boots let you just run somebody down for so long, especially because you get the percentage increase of movement speed coming from the Astral Spirit. So you may as well just wait for the Boots. And then the second reason, like I mentioned, there are 2 reasons. In a moment here, we'll see that he saves the Astral Spirit to try to attempt to get this ranged creep last hit. So first we can see that he's faking it just to kind of scare them off because the Tusk used his spell and they don't want Mind Control to die, but he doesn't use it. There's a specific reason for that. Like, he wants to go for that ranged creep last hit, which is going to come up here, and they know this is going to happen just based on where the lane is and how the Pango pulled the creep wave so that the range creep is essentially dying to the melee creeps. But unfortunately, even though Kuroki and GH go for the last hit, all of Pango go for the deny, and they get it. So the reason that you go for that deny, the reason that you want that last hit is not for the gold. Liquid does not care about the gold. They care about not losing the experience, because generally the first team to get level 2 in a tri-lane versus tri-lane scenario or dual lane versus dual lane scenario is going to obliterate the other team, because a level 2 hero has 2 spells and a level 1 hero has 1 spell, which obviously is a huge problem for the team that's level 1. So now that he has the boots, he basically starts spamming this off cooldown, this Astral Spirit, and especially because the creep wave is so close to his tower, there's so much space for him to just constantly run down the opponents that spamming this is much more reasonable. Now he's got so many tangos left, because he didn't just use all of them at the start, that this is going to be very, very effective. So we can see that he does a lot of damage to the Visage here in a second. Runs it through all of the heroes, and he makes sure to save the Astral, such that he can run it through the next creep wave as well. So he times this just so he gets that little bit of extra damage. Runs into the trees so they don't know where he is, goes to the right side, and then starts beating the shit out of the Visage, because that is the core and has very low armor. So he's doing a ton of damage, and that was just really, really nice trading right there. That already makes the lane very difficult when this guy's sitting at 60% HP. So a couple of important notes about this game is basically every single time they can stack the hard camp, Liquid does. They dip back and they stack it. Sometimes they would stack pull, like if you pull at the 55-second mark, for example, into your tower in the safe lane, you can pull it and stack it at the same time. The reason for this is because, of course, the Elder Titan massively benefits from having that huge stack. It's going to be almost impossible for No Pango to lane here and to fight the upcoming bounty rune with all of these creeps here. You can even see that even the Grimstroke benefits from that huge stack being there. It's just getting harder and harder for the Pango to lane in an aggro tri-lane. If it's getting harder and harder to lane in an aggro tri-lane, the problem is if you try to send the core that's farming in the aggro tri-lane to anywhere else, they're farming versus a core that's going to be double their level, because there's so much experience that's just taken in aggro tri-lanes. So basically, if you can win the aggro tri-lane like this, which is happening, or sorry, win against the aggro tri-lane, then you're just going to win the game very, very easily, which is, of course, the case in this game. So once the Bristleback takes the safe lane tower, the enemy safe lane tower, I should say, GH kind of starts to change his game plan, because now there is space on the map to farm. Beastmaster can head to this jungle area and farm, or over here. Basically, the map has opened up, and there is not much necessity in just sending all of those heroes and fighting that bottom lane. They can get more off the map by not doing that and just sending Kuroki down here to get some free experience in what is essentially the most dangerous part of the map. Beastmaster respawns, heads to this area of the map. You can see his cameras up here. And instead of going to the bot lane, because it's just a 5-roll down there, and GH has no business protecting a 5-roll, he essentially protects Medusa. He just runs to the mid lane and bodies this Tusk. He just follows the Tusk around, because if they have a Medusa farming, the map has opened up, so Beast is going to be capable of farming top. Bristle, obviously, because he took the tower, is capable of farming. All of their cores are farming. So all GH needs to do is protect the next action, the next course of action that the Pango is going to have, which is moving to that mid lane, because the bot lane is just a 5-roll. They're not going to contest him. So as long as GH is soaking, like if he dies there, it's actually perfectly fine, because he's literally just protecting the Medusa, getting the Medusa farm, because you can imagine the map is like, there's certain amounts of pressure in certain areas, and you're not relieving pressure in the bot lane, it's going to spill over to the mid lane. So that is all he needs to worry about, is this mid lane. I have no idea what these lines are on the map, but they're definitely interesting looking. But in any case, that's essentially it. The laning phase is over at this point, because the map has opened up, and GH's purpose now kind of becomes protecting the most important core on his team, which is the Medusa. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do appreciate it, and I hope to see you in another video. So I know I said that was the end of the video, but there's something that I briefly want to mention at the end here, and it's the fact that in this game, Team Liquid has the vastly superior late game to the Pango's lineup. So that is why GH's rotations in this game were extremely defensive and literally just putting his body in locations to protect from ganks. It's because he knows that if they just survive until the late game, they will win. A Bristleback would probably outcarry these heroes on the Pango, and they have a Medusa. Like, there's no way that they're going to lose the late game as long as they go late, and as a result, all GH needs to focus on is whatever is going to get him into the late game with his team.